Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here. I am here with Terry Durham, who is the owner of River Hills Harvest and on the board of the Midwest Elderberry Co-op. And Terry, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be here because I am always glad to talk about elderberry.
So you're an elderberry farmer. You work on developing tools for elderberry cultivation, and you teach nationwide on elderberry cultivation and sales.
That's right. We've been working for now since 1997 to select elderberries from the wild and prove that we had superior ones, and then trying to develop products to make out of the native elderberries. And then we had to develop equipment to process the berries with. And so it's a vertically integrated business where the farmers are involved in every part of it.
So what is your background? What got you into the elderberry world?
I studied agriculture at the University of Missouri, and we bought a farm in 1979 and started growing organic vegetables.
Okay.
We sold wholesale. We did a CSA for a decade. We did a lot of different things trying to develop markets for elderberries, of organizing the farmers to aggregate their vegetables. But after a while, from tilling our soil so much and so intensely growing vegetables, we could see that it was just not holding up. No matter how much organic matter we were putting on there and cover crops, we could see it decline. And I had been interested in the elderberries for a while, and we decided about 2000 to start to convert our ground over to a more permanent agriculture. And by 2005, we had developed enough plants and started planting the elderberries to grow commercially and to be able to provide the cuttings for the new farmers that wanted to grow the elderberries. So we started making juice products about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And it wasn't until we had juice products that we were able to start to convince other farmers that it was a great opportunity for them on small farms.
So talk to us a bit about the elderberry. Why do people want to grow it? What are the health benefits behind it?
We could talk for hours on that, but elderberry has been used for medicine, for thousands of years. Hippocrates was the first person that we know of that actually wrote a book on using elderberry for health. And he wrote a book where he said he could heal any part of your body with a part of the elder. And he gave it the medicine chest of the people because you could grow your medicine and your food right in your garden at the same time. And so it has been evolving for years and years. It's been used. It's very effective against the flu. This is our busy time of year. Now we're sending juice to people all over the country to help protect them from the flu. There's lots of great science on the health aspects of elderberry. But the problem was most of the elderberry was coming into the United States was from Europe. And we saw that as something that we needed to work on because elderberry grew so well here. And the American elderberry grows differently than the European elder. So we have had worked to develop new systems. We could take advantage of that. The American elder fruits on 1-year-old wood.
Okay.
So we're able to cut our orchards down every year and just grow the 1-year-old canes, which get get the biggest heads of fruit. The research has shown us that we get twice as big of heads of fruit by coppicing them to the ground. The European elder has to grow more as a tree. It only fruits on 2-year-old wood and older. So you have to do a lot of hand pruning and selective pruning to keep the trees in shape. And it's just a little bit easier to manage the American elderberry, growing them in rows of bushes or hedgerows instead of as individual trees.
So what kind of soils does the elder like best?
The elderberry loves a well-drained soil that you can provide it with plenty of moisture.
Okay, so
It
they like moisture, but they don't want wet feet.
That's right. That's right. We see the most failures in the elderberry on sites that do not drain well and have a clay subbase that holds the water in there too much. And then it goes anaerobic at times, and the microorganisms don't really like the anaerobic activity, and elderberry is very close with all the microbes. It'll give up 20% of its carbohydrates to feed the organisms in the soil. And so they have a big, bulky root system of rhizomes instead of a fibrous, fine root system. So they depend on the mycorrhizals and the biology in the soil to provide a lot of their nutrients for it.
Now, do they spread by rhizomes, or do they more clump?
Well, the American will spread by rhizomes if you coppice it down to the ground all the way, which is the way that we fill our beds up.
Okay.
So we'll plant our plants 2 to 4 feet apart in our rows that are 12 feet apart.
Okay.
And then we'll allow those to take over that whole bed. Now, some growers will grow it on a small coppiced stump about 6 to 8 inches tall, where they'll cut everything back to that each year. Then they don't spread as much, and you can use a landscape fabric around them to help control the weeds easier. So the schooling is a function of cutting it right to the ground, which causes the roots to send up the new shoots more. Whereas if you made little stumps, it will come out of the stump. Just a couple different ways that people are growing them.
And how are they just mowing those down like a flail mower, or are they manually cutting each stem?
Both ways. If you're going to propagate, you need to cut it down and make stems so that you can cut those up and make new propagations. All the selections we work with and sell are publicly owned. They're not owned by anyone, so we can propagate them all we want and grow our orchards as big as we want.
All right, so after you have that little stick, you can actually just poke that right in the ground, correct? And it will root?
It will. We encourage people to make beds up. We like to see about 2 inches of compost on top of those beds filled in, and then plant it into, you can plant it through a row cover or a black mulch, or use a heavy wood mulch or other kind of mulch around them, and they will come right out. We just want to make sure that when we cut our propagations that we have 2 of the opposite buds that go into the ground and 2 of the opposite buds above ground.
Okay,
and
so that's the key.
A really, really good livability out of that when you plant them in the spring and there's a nice continuous supply of moisture in the soil and it doesn't dry out.
Okay. All right. So let's say someone's just getting into the elderberry. How should they approach it? I mean, how big of an area should they invest to start with?
We encourage people to start small.
Okay.
We believe in farms. We work with small farmers all over, and you can start small and build your own orchard, and that way you don't have to buy so many cuttings. We usually suggest people, if you put an acre or half acre in, you put a selection of the different cuttings in there, so you'll see what grows the very best on your ground. Now, people will go to our website at riverhillsharvest.com and sign up for our newsletter that's on the growers section. We have a section for farmers. And we'll send you a nice growing guide, about 12 pages long, that talks all about growing elderberry and answers a lot of people's questions. And we also offer mentoring workshops where we bring young farmers in, farmers of all ages, in to for hands-on one-day workshops. We have 2 of those in March. And then in June is the big comprehensive elderberry workshop where people come from over the North America to learn about what's going on with elderberries. And we bring in all the researchers from around the country and farmers. And so we have a really great 3-day program all on elderberries that really gets you ready to grow.
Awesome. So let's talk about just the general care during the year of that. There's not a lot that you have to do during the season, correct?
Well, we have people grow grass and legumes in their aisles between the rows. And we like to put in 3 grasses and 3 legumes, trying to keep about a 50-50 ratio in that. And that gives us a good amount of nitrogen to add for the elderberries, because they'll spread their roots all the way underneath that 12-foot section between them. And so the main thing once you're established is mowing during the summer, and monitoring for the insects. You have to keep the weeds out of it. The first year especially, you want to try to keep the weeds out from what plants so that they can really take off. And then if you can do all that, by the second year, you'll start to get a harvest.
Now, are birds a problem with the harvest?
Well, birds love elderberry, and they can be a problem. It's a little bit regional on how bad the birds would eat it. Here in the Midwest, where we are, we don't have giant flocks of birds in August when the elderberries are ripe. Now, then in the fall, when they start harvesting grain and stuff, there are a lot more big flocks of birds that you'd have to worry about. We just plant enough that the birds can have some also. If you have a small planting and you have some time to work it, you can individually wrap the heads in, well, the best way I've seen is with a hairnet that you can buy very inexpensively from restaurant supplies. And you just tie the hairnet around the clump, and that keeps the birds and the insects away from it. And then you can just pick the whole end of the stem, where the ripe head is, and take it inside and then do it. That way you don't lose any berries from shattering, and you have a really good success with keeping birds and stuff out on small plantings. But if you're planting a half or 2 or 3 acres, there are some mechanical things that you can do. You can put a post up with a piece of phylon tape or something on it, little streamers, or you can do different ways to disrupt them, but that's only good for a few days, and then they quickly learn that it's not bothering them.
Gotcha. Okay.
In Ontario, they will I've seen them use propane cannons and stuff like that, because they have a lot more problem with them up north, because the grain's getting ripe, it seems, or there's more flocks of big birds there.
So what's the range on the elderberry in the U.S.? Is it pretty much across the entire nation, or is it not as much in the Southwest?
We're working with growers in every state, all over the country, from the southern tip of Texas to northern Maine, into Canada, British Columbia. We have a lot of work going on in California. We have been working with some people in New Mexico that are putting orchards in, because we need lots of elderberries. The United States imports still 95% of the elderberry products that you see on the shelf are all being made European elder. And so we see it as this great opportunity for our American small farmers to have this really valuable crop that they can grow, and the demand is high. All the berries are getting sold really quickly, and we buy every berry that we can get.
So let's talk harvest a little bit. So you also have some equipment that you've kind of worked on for harvest, correct?
That's right. When we first started, we had to figure out a way to destem the berries mechanically, because we wanted to sanitize and wash our berries before we froze them. And so we have developed a machine that destems the berries. It does a really good job. It took several years to get it perfected. And that's the thing that makes it possible for the small growers to be able to capitalize on this, because they can harvest their fruit. We clip the big heads right off the plants, or either break them off and carry them back in totes. And then we put them into the machine. We collect the destemmed berries, and we sanitize and wash them, and then we freeze them. We try to do that all in the same day when we can, and not have berries to the next day. And once you have those 25-pound buckets of frozen berries, then you've got something that you can market in lots of different areas, because they are in demand. It's really hard to get frozen fresh sanitized berries. And so we have no trouble selling. We could have sold many, many, many thousands of pounds more than what we were able to get last year. So we harvest those berries and we put them into storage, and then the farmers will either bring those to us, to our freezer here at the farm, or we have them ship them if they have larger amounts. We put about 1,500 pounds on a pallet.
Okay.
And once it's frozen, it's pretty easy to ship frozen fruit around. There's a whole infrastructure for shipping frozen stuff. And then we aggregate in a big underground freezer down by Springfield, Missouri, which is close to the processing plant.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what are you processing that into? I know on your website you sell the juice.
That pure juice is our main thing that we sell. We sell other products, but that's the thing that we're most proud of. It is processed with very low amount of heat, and we get it in a bottle. It stays fresh for a long time, and it's really good medicine. One of the problems with most of the medicines that people try to make, the syrups and tinctures and stuff, they involve boiling because you have to treat the European elders by boiling to get rid of the potential cyanide that's in it. Whereas American elder does not have that potential of cyanide. You'll see that in all kinds of literature everywhere, but we have had research going on at the university, and they have shown how elderberry juice has 100 times less cyanide, the American elder, than apple juice.
Oh, wow.
Which has in there from its seeds also. So when you get dried elderberries or concentrate from Europe, it has to be processed somehow. That's why when people make their elderberry syrup, they're boiling those berries. And when you boil berries, you lose the antioxidants when you heat food and when you take it and make it hot. So most of the syrups could be so much more powerful if they were made with the American elder that doesn't have to be boiled to be safe.
Now with the juice, could you just, instead of the reason they like the syrups is because they have a longer shelf life? Is that the reason, or is it just cheaper to buy?
It's just a traditional way of making it with the European elder, because the European elder does not taste nearly as good as the American elder, and especially when you make it into juice. We're one of the very few people that actually make pure elderberry juice. Everything out of Europe is all processed as a concentrate or a elixir or some other kind of product because they don't have all the same antioxidants. The American elderberry has 2 additional antioxidants, and one of those keeps it purple in the bottle for us. European elder turns brown if you try to process it and put it into a bottle. After a while, it turns brown and it doesn't look very appealing. So they don't even try to make it anywhere else. So we've only seen one person in Europe that made a juice, and then there's one other person here in the United States that makes a little bit of juice, but hardly any commercially available except for ours. So that's this great advantage for our farmers that we have this wonderful products, and they sell well, and we have very little competition. So we also make our other products all out of that pure elderberry juice that we make, and we make a honey-sweetened cordial that has cloves and cinnamon in it that is an excellent cough syrup. I started making it for my kids when they were little, and that's for this ones that want a little sweeter product. Then we do make an elderberry syrup that's made with sugar, and we think that's better for pancakes generally. And then we make a lemonade. We have freeze-dried elderberries and elderberry gummy kits. And there's several things online that we sell.
All right. So then this is all done through the co-op, or is this through your own company?
This is through our business here. We buy some berries from the co-op as they are learning to accumulate them. We're really close in there. The demand is so high, it's hard to get any extra berries from them right now because we're trying to build that market. the person that runs the co-op works for us also and does our national marketing program. And we take care of our regional stuff here, and then he does the bigger, the wholesale stuff that goes all over the country more through our distributors. He runs that, and we're hoping to integrate them eventually because I want the farmers to own this part of the business also. So eventually, we want the co-op to take over the juice processing and the whole other part of our business.
Gotcha. After that grows enough to make sure it's going to be, long-term viability.
That's right. We want to keep this all going, and we want to make sure that they're prepared. But there's lots of great stuff going on up in the north. The Savannah Institute is really putting a push on elderberries, and they do agroforestry things because it works great in the agroforestry programs. And they've got some nice grants to help. They're actually hiring a full-time staff person to work on developing the farmers up there to grow elderberries.
Very cool. So talk to me about it in the agroforestry situation. Is it something that can be like an understory or just on the edge of a forest, or?
We like to interplant the trees with them, and there are different ways that people are doing that. Some of our pecan growers are putting them in between the rows.
Okay.
We also have been working with what we call linear farming, which we do on riparian areas, where we'll lay up a little berm at the bottom of the slopes along the creeks.
Okay.
That will catch the water a little bit so it can absorb in there. And that's a really great place then to grow elderberries on the edges of those berms. And then they'll put rows of trees. And then so you'll have bushes and trees along the edge. And then as you get to the sunnier parts outside, you can grow the elderberries in long, continuous rows that follow the watershed. When you have a berm at the bottom of your hill there, it slows that water down before it goes into the streams. And it's able to take a lot of the nutrients and other stuff. It works great for livestock operations because it takes a lot of the nitrates and different chemicals that run off the livestock fields and gives them time to soak in instead of going right into the water. So we like this riparian area, and it's just they are a bush. They don't get really big, and they do tolerate some shade. So you can plant them on the edges, and they'll do well in bigger plantings until the trees get large. There are people doing it with chestnuts. Even hemp growers are starting to grow some elderberry in between their hemp.
Interesting. So I know you can.
A long crop. That's called alley cropping.
So I know you can also sell the flowers. How are people selling and using the flowers?
There's a huge demand for the flowers. In Europe, they make 50% of their crop goes into flowers. And they make elderflower cordial out of it. It's very popular. Then you can thermally dry the flowers, which is, we work on that. We do that up at the co-op, and they sell the thermally dried flowers. And then what we're working with for the new elderflower cordial that we're making, the university has been doing a lot of research with the flowers for us, and we've learned that when you dry the flowers, you lose a lot of the phenols and terpenes and the things that give it the smell and taste quickly go away from the flowers when you're drying them. The research told us that they lose 50% after 24 hours of the phenols and terpenes in there. So we have been working with freezing those flowers and using the frozen flowers, and they're much stronger than the dried flowers. And so we harvest those. They've shown us that we need to harvest those in the first 2 hours of the morning. That's when they have the most phenols and stuff. So then we take those directly, destem them on the destemming machine, and freeze the flowers. There's a lot more profit for farmers to sell the frozen flowers. Right now, we are paying about $10 a pound for the fresh frozen flowers. And the dried flowers bring about $20, $25 a pound, but it takes 7 pounds to make a pound.
Yeah.
There's so much difference in that, and most of our growers have a destemmer and they have a freezer. So it's a second crop that they can take, and we're doing research now on how much they can take without affecting their overall harvest of berries. We're sure they can take 20% of their flowers without affecting their yield of berries too much. So we're still working on that research. We'll have the researchers will be at our comprehensive elderberry workshop to present what they've learned this year on that.
So
that's a great value for the farmers to be able to use the same infrastructure and equipment that they're using for their berries. They can turn around, and then in June they can be harvesting flowers that are of quality.
So talk to me about if someone's getting set up on this. They need a freezer, they need a destemmer, they need to plant the crop. Other than that, I mean, they have the irrigation system. What else do they need to get set up?
Well, usually, it's kind of a progression with new growers.
Okay.
First, you work on established, and you have about 2 years before you're going to have fruit. Generally, that second year, unless they're larger, they probably aren't wanting to justify a freezer and a destemmer to start with. So they can go to selling their whole fruit to a person that has a destemmer, or having them destem it for them, till then they can have some cash to work with to buy some more equipment. So they usually, some people start out with all the equipment, but it's easy to grow yourself into having what you need. If you've got a nice orchard that's growing well and you're taking care of it, then you need a destemming machine to destem the berries, a triple stainless steel sink to do a sanitizing and rinsing operation, and then a freezer. You have to have a supply of buckets. You got to have a scale. And once you get them frozen, you've got them, they're preserved and they're stabilized, so you can sell them out over the next year or two.
Gotcha.
And we also like to teach our growers how to add more value to it by making products, and we're always trying to help do that. We've had some great success with different people, have started some other really great products. One of them is the gummies that one of our growers out on the East Coast is doing. They're doing really great, selling a gummy kit. And so they're selling like a little adventure you can have with your kids or your grandkids or friends, and they can make the elderberry gummies up and participate because it's so easy to make them. It's a great new product that's going around. And then we have people on the West Coast that are doing different syrups, elderflower and cordial, working in the bar trade, helping people make new cocktails. But you have people doing stuff all over the country. A lot of people just sell berries from their farm. We have you pick berries going on. So they're just not hard to sell if you've got them.
So what's the potential revenue per acre that you're seeing growers make? And obviously it would range, but if let's say you're just selling the berries, what's a particular return?
This last year we bought the frozen bucket berries from growers for $2.20 a pound. And the organic ones were going for about $3 a pound. We were buying them.
Okay.
Growers were a lot more than that out there in the field when they were finding local people that wanted to buy them for wineries or for people that want to process the elderberries. And so an average we see over the country is around 4,000 pounds. It's a little bit less further north and a little bit more as you get south.
Okay.
And so at 4,000 pounds at $2.25, you're going to make about 9,000 gross per acre.
Yeah.
We do have growers that are selling certified organic berries that are getting a little higher yields, and I've seen growers on 2 acres sell $35,000 worth of berries.
Wow, that's not bad at all.
No, it's a great market.
Yeah, especially for something that's so low labor intensive compared to, let's say, like vegetables, which are out there every single day.
Oh, yeah.
This is something where it's a couple set times throughout the year you need to deal with them, and other than that, they're just take care of themselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. That's why it's so nice to integrate it in with other types of activities. If you have a market garden, it's so seasonal. Unless you're adding value to it, it's hard to make any money in the winter. When you're growing elderberries, that's a single crop. You can sell it all at once. You can have one big check from it, or you can add more value to it and sell it at this market, or sell it in off season, sell it into the winter.
Yeah.
Other times when people jellies and syrups, and so it's got a lot of different markets. And I've been growing vegetables for many years now, and then we started into the elderberry. And when we first started, we were truck farmers, and we sold everything out of the back of the truck. We didn't even have farmers markets back then. We developed wholesale markets with cooperatives through the Ozarks, and then we sold wholesale, all these different ways. But it's a new time, and now you can be at your farm, and you can sell to the world right from your farm over the internet. It's a different marketplace than we used to have, and people like to buy directly from the makers.
Yeah.
It's a great trend, and we see it happening, and it's inspiring to see how all these young farmers are able to get started and being able to sell stuff right from their farm. They don't have to run a big city. They can live in any part of the country and have the whole country as their market. So I think that's helping bring a lot of new people back to the land. And here in Missouri, we continue to grow more farms. We're actually increasing the number of farms we have here, and we want to see that happen everywhere.
Absolutely. So as a farmer, there are always endless tasks to be done. What systems have you set up to make sure that you focus on what needs to be done every single week on the farm?
Well, I have a really great team, and I have people that are in charge of different parts of it. And so we have a really great horticulturist, Alan Howland, that takes care of the orchards for us and manages that. And then we have a really great marketer, Cody Streckup, which takes care of a lot of our marketing. And we hire different people to come and help with different things. So we kind of got it organized. We've been doing it long enough. There is a flow to the whole year. We get really busy a few times of the year, which is like right now, when we're trying to get cutting out to people, and then it'll slow down for a little bit. But we have developed you just develop systems as you grow. That's what we do. There's different plateaus for businesses, and they need different tools depending on where you're at in what plateau of the business and how busy it is. So we've had to learn more and more about shipping. That's been the biggest challenge for us, is to learn how do you really get all the packages shipped out that we have from the farm. And so we've learned a lot about that, and we just work as a great team, and we continue moving forward.
So if you were to start the whole elderberry process over again, would there be something differently as you'd set it up that you would do, or?
I don't really think there is. We started talking about this dream 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And how we create this new commodity. And we have followed through with the steps that we've laid out, and it is just like magic has just all opened up in front of us, and I don't think I would want to change anything. It's been so, when we see it working for the farmers and they're making money, and that was our whole goal, was to get more money in rural America.
With that, I'd like to stop here and take a quick break. In a minute, we'll be back with Terry Durham from River Hills Harvest in Missouri. If you've been enjoying this episode so far, you're going to want to head over to growingfarmers.com/free resources and download our free resource bundle to help you shave hours off your week and become a thriving farmer. It includes resources such as our 10 winter growing secrets we wish we knew when we started, which is a ebook which talks about the tips and techniques to get better growth in your winter production. We teach things like the simple but counterintuitive principle that trips up most beginning growers, the shape and size of tunnels that are best for winter production, how to prepare beds so they are weed-free and get beautiful, lush stands of crops, what to do about pests like aphids, voles, and slugs, how to fast-track your research to fine-tune your production for your microclimate, and how to pack in more crops for higher yields and profits. So head over to growingfarmers.com/free resources and download your free resource bundle today. We're back with Terry. Now, quickly, before we get back to the interview, I just wanted to say, jump over to the website, to the show notes page, because we'll have a lot of lists of Terry's info, as well as a couple links to a couple different health studies about the benefits that elderberries have for flu and for just general health. There's even some studies out there on Alzheimer's and different diseases like that. So make sure you jump over to the show notes and check those out. So how do you divide roles with your team?
Well, like I was saying, I have one person in charge of the horticultural part, runs the greenhouse, who takes care of the orchards, and then another person that is in charge of the marketing and making sure that we get everything shipped out. And they have a couple people that help them. And I spend the majority of my time traveling around talking to farmers. We do about 30 presentations a year around the country, trying to growers to grow the elderberries and help grow this industry and put some profit into their farms.
Interesting. And how do you find the right people?
You know, I figured out finally that you have to pay the right people well, and you can find them. Too many times in agriculture, people don't want to pay their workers enough to have a great livable wage and be able to start their own farm and to bring bring stuff in, which is what we try to do with our employees, our team. We all work together, and they are all starting orchards, and they have businesses that work with this business that they're, bringing into it. So they have some other stuff of their own going on, as well as working with this business. And I think that's important. And we have a very flexible work schedule. I don't demand hours of people. They ask that they get the workload done. And so they can schedule their work that way, because they all have families. And they can feel like they have some power over their time like that. Right now, when we get really, really busy, they're working way more hours than somebody would at a regular job. But then other times, they're able to go home and spend days with their family and not have to come to work when we get slow. So being flexible and paying well is the most important thing.
How many acres of elderberries do you think there are in the U.S. right now?
The USDA actually took a count last year in the ag census, and it looks like there's around 1,000 acres commercially planted right now. We have about half of that in Missouri here, where we've been working the longest. And there are many, many more, I'm sure, that did not fill out the ag statistics that are growing elderberries. And so we think we need about 22,000 acres to supply just a fraction of the needs of this country. I mean, we import this incredible amount of elderberry. It's very hard to keep track of it because they import a lot of it as food coloring.
Oh, interesting.
In the European Union countries, they can't use artificial food coloring. So a couple of the co-ops in Europe have developed the food coloring industry with the elderberry. There's many different shades you can make depending on the acidity and stuff. And so they've been shipping it here as natural food coloring. We can still use artificial ones, but they send it here, and then people buy the concentrate and use that to make products out of. When the co-op was visiting me from Europe, that one of them that did the concentration, they were wondering why that in America we were buying their industrial product, food coloring, to make our medicines. They were curious about that. I said, well, that's all we can get, pretty much. So, so been the standard of use, but then it was hard to figure out how much was imported because so much of it was just labeled as food coloring, which could be from a number of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the marketing. It sounds like the elderberry is very easy to sell. Where are you focusing right now on increasing your markets?
Well, I think the market is just showing us where it goes, and that is through the internet.
Yeah.
We have had our internet sales over the last 2 years have just skyrocketed because people want to buy right as close to the farm as they can get. And when you have a product that not very many people have, it's pretty easy to get it out there. Wholesaling is really difficult on the national level for farmers because they expect an incredible lot from you, and they drive the prices down and charge us different fees. That it's really hard for farmers to work through that stuff. We do that. It's not where we make very much money. So we've been trying to develop that national market. Our best markets are our regional markets around Missouri here and Arkansas, and they have continued to grow. We supply a lot of local health food stores, and small grocery chains do really well for us. We have one larger chain, Hy-Vee, that we work with that we really like, that really have a little respect for their farmers. And but other than that, we see the biggest future in direct marketing through the internet, doing that locally and then nationally. So we love that. We love it. It's a lot of work to send all that stuff out. You got to pay a lot of postage and a lot of UPS stuff, but it's more profitable for the farmers to do all that than it is to try to sell on the national wholesale level. So we just seen our farmers make products and sell, and one of the things that we do offer them once they're signed up with this and have a growing number and all the things that we require for the FDA is that we will sell back their stuff to them under our brand, but we will make sure it's their juice that comes back to them so that they can sell it again. And we'll sell that to them or just below the wholesale price of what we would sell a pallet to the national marketers. That way they can double their money again. So we will buy the berries from them. They can purchase that back from us at our wholesale price and then sell it again and double their money at the farmers markets and stuff.
Very cool. That's a really awesome
we call
service.
we call those our farmer marketers because they're out there. And when we get more and more of those out there in different areas, that just builds awareness and builds the overall desire for the elderberry and our products. And that gives them, makes them feel proud. That's their stuff in the jars, and it's ready to go. It's all approved, and they can sell and be happy and know that it's safe.
Yeah, and it's super professional.
Right. And we provide them with, marketing materials and all the stuff that you would do. We think they're our best market because we really don't want to see a giant corporation try to take over a big share of what we're doing. So we know that if we have a huge diversified marketing plan of individual marketers that are selling all around the country, it would be such a chaos for a big company to take over that they wouldn't really want to try to do it.
Absolutely.
And that's what and that's why we have the co-op, and the whole way that we've developed this is to protect the farmer's interest in the future.
So let's say for someone starting with elderberries, what do you see some of the big mistakes that they make when they get started?
Biggest mistakes I see on people when they're first getting started is that they're not prepared. It's good to start early. You need to have your beds worked up. We like to see people do that the fall ahead and turn in a crop if they can. Get some compost on there, make their beds, get their plastic down or row cover or mulch or whatever they're going to put on those beds. Make sure that the pH is proper between 5.5 and 6.5, and that you have plenty of nutrients in there so that you have a good, healthy soil. And then you can plant them early. You don't have to worry about doing all that soil prep in the spring when rain rain can really slow you down. So people will think, oh, I'm going to get ready in the spring. Then it's really raining. They've ordered a few thousand cuttings, and then the cuttings come, and then they can't put them out, and they can't put them out, and they haven't got the irrigation in, and then they put it in. It's best to be very prepared before you get it. And that's probably the worst thing. That and people that are in drier areas, putting them in later, or there's not enough soil moisture, and they have their irrigation almost ready, but then it's 2 or 3 weeks after they plant before they get it going, and then the plants have suffered, and they don't do as well to get started.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably it, being prepared, and doing your homework, studying about the elderberry. There's lots of literature out there. Trying to go to one of the workshops. When you talk to other farmers doing and growing elderberries at these workshops, you can gain so much experience and save on the number of mistakes that you could make, because we've made them. And we'll let you know.
And you travel extensively to the Mother Earth News fairs and to all those other places. So do you have a list of those on your website of all your speaking engagements?
We do try to keep those up on there, so they can look online and find out. I'm trying to think what's on there right now. We haven't put the new ones up for the next year. We'll be at the Moses Conference coming up here in a few days, which is my favorite organic farming conference of the year. There'll be about 3,500 organic farmers there, and lots of experience to be gained. So we'll be there, and we'll be back doing that, and then we'll be back, and we'll get ready for our mentoring workshops that we do here too in March, and then our next big one will be we'll be at Joel Salatin's at Polyface Farms coming up in May, which is a Mother Earth fair they're going to have right there on the farm this year. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, actually, we're attending as well.
All right, well, that'll be great to see you there.
Yes.
And that should be quite an experience to try to do those big festivals, those big fairs out on the farm. But I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, my wife and I were talking logistics last night. We're still trying to figure out how they're going to pull it off, but we're pretty excited to be there.
That's what and the road going in is crooked, and so it'll be a challenge for some people to get all the stuff in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we move to our big June workshop, which is the 3-day long from the 11th, 12th, and 13th of June. And that's here, and that'll be at a university facilities right by Columbia, Missouri. And we're just getting that all planned. And then information will be online there at our website at riverhillsharvest.com. So.
Awesome. So if you could pick one, what would be your favorite farming tool?
My favorite farming tool are my feet.
Okay.
Because walking through your orchards are the most important thing you can do. I like to see farmers go out there and walk through the orchard every day to learn what's going on, to pull a few weeds, to get in touch with their crop. And I've just seen that when people take the time to walk their orchard often, they usually do the best. Other than that, the most important thing is the de-stemming machine for us, because we could not, no way we can de-stem all the berries that we have to supply this country.
All right. And so the best way for people to find out more about you is just to go to riverhillsharvest.com, right?
That's it. And we have several really great YouTube videos that other people have put on. The Savannah Institute has a really good one. Off Grid with Doug and Stacy have a couple of fantastic ones that they've done. And then we have some that we have made ourselves. And if you download that Grower's Guide from our website, it has some great links to other things in the back of it that you can look up. There are some videos online on our website that you can go directly to also.
Very cool. Well, Terry, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you coming on and just sharing about this. And it's exciting to me to see this new industry being exploding, especially because it's one that I'm passionate about, which is the health side. It's just helping people be more healthy. And, our kids actually every single morning, they drink their supplement jars, which is mostly elderberry, and it keeps the cold and flu away. So it's definitely working.
It does. And we are, and the science continues to prove it. And now we know that the American elderberry is a better berry than the European. And we would like to see the United States, all our farmers, take over that industry because it's growing so fast. The Europeans can't hardly keep up with what they are producing. They're selling it over the whole world. And we just want to provide enough for our country at least.
Absolutely. Do you know anyone in Ohio selling it? So, do you have orchards in Ohio? Because that's where we're located.
We are working with orchards in Ohio. We just sent a couple thousand cuttings to a gentleman out there. Ohio traditionally is a fairly large spot for elderberries. They grow there really well. In the past, Ohio was one of the few places that actually had a cannery. And they used to can elderberries in Ohio. I've seen the cans with the labels and stuff. So there's a pretty good industry there. We were just out at the UFA conference.
Yes, and I was there. I missed you, though. I was there because my friend,
I was not there. I was down in Texas, but Cody was there. We were working. I personally didn't get to make that. It's a great conference, though.
Yeah. I'd love to. We got some sticks last year, and so we've got them in pots now, just smaller pots. We're waiting to actually get our land. Our land's prepped now. We just didn't want to get them in too early last year until the land was good. But now it's ready to go, so we'll be planting those this year.
All right. And there's a new selection we'll be able to start selling next year that we just got last year from the university called Pocahontas.
Okay.
And that it's going to be a really excellent plant. From the first year of growing, they're very, very vigorous, and I've seen them in the research sites.
Okay.
And so we're going to have another great tool in our toolbox with that new Pocahontas.
Okay, so stay tuned for next year, and you'll be just selling that on your website?
We will be selling them on the website next year in limited amounts.
Awesome.
Hopefully we're trying to get it to the growers so they can get out there and grow more.
Yes.
We want to see more the field. You never know what it's going to look like when it comes out of the research side, once you get it actually into a production field.
Yeah. Well, very cool. All right, Terry, thanks again so much.
So much. Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure because there's not any passion I have greater than to see farmers thriving.
Yes, thank you.
That's what it's all about.
And that's a wrap with Terry. Next week on the Thriving Farmer podcast, we'll talk to my good friend, Andre Kiltamo. So Andre is a farmer at Heron Pond Farm in New Hampshire. Larger scale farm, does a number of acres of vegetables and a large number of wholesale crops. So we talk through his background of biological farming and how it has transitioned to the current day. We talk about scaling up your farm and the equipment that they're using to make that work. We talk about market channels and how they're selling their large amounts of product and building a team. They have a large team now, and he talks how he's made that work. So next week, join me to talk and listen to Andre Kiltamo. So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.